Your monsteras need fertilizer to thrive, especially in the springtime. Let me show you how to use the most simplest fertilizer, slow release granules. Hey, Lee here, helping you become a better plant parent. When choosing your brand for a slow release fertilizer, it really doesn't matter all that much which one you choose, as long as you're getting something that says general or all-purpose fertilizer. If you're at a big box store, grabbing anything off the shelf is pretty much fine. For example, I use Miracle-Gro slow release fertilizer. Once you take your product home, you're just gonna look at the side of the bottle and read the instructions. Just take note that there might be two different sets of instructions, one for outdoor gardens and one for indoor or containers. Container plants just means that it's inside a pot and you can transfer it around somewhere as opposed to a garden bed. In the instructions, it will list different container sizes, usually somewhere between 6-inch pots and 14-inch pots. The standard container diameter can be found by measuring across the top of whatever plant or pot that you're using. Next to your container size, it should show you how much volume of the granules to put into your container. For example, a 6-inch pot might require 1 1/4 teaspoon. Take your measuring scoop, sprinkle it over the top of the soil. Be careful to avoid contact with the stem, and you can use your finger or a small fork to gently push the granules directly into the soil. It really doesn't need to be that deep. Part of the reason why I'm able to grow my monsteras so consistently large is that I switched from using a liquid fertilizer. The more plants you have, the more challenging it is to consistently use a liquid fertilizer. If you're constantly having to measure and figure out what plants need what liquid fertilizer on what day, unless you're laser focused, you have a pretty good chance that you're not going to be as consistent. The fertilizer I use feeds for up to 3 months, so I would highly recommend starting in March in the spring, refertilizing again in June for the summer, again in September for the fall, and December for the winter. And yeah, I did say to fertilize your plants in the winter. Keeping track of your fertilizing schedule is extremely important, and maximizing your plant's growth by being on time can be a bit tricky, especially if you have a lot of plants or you're using a lot of different products on your plant. I've created some really helpful and easy to use plant tracking sheets, and if you're interested, you can click on the link in the description down below. One of my main frustrations for these companies that make slow release fertilizer is that they rarely show you how much fertilizer to use if your plant is in a pot that's under 6 inches. Thankfully, I've done the math for you, and the link to this Google Sheet is in the description down below. If there are other brands that you're curious about that are not showing you all of the information, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try to work some magic and add it to the spreadsheet. Some good general advice about using fertilizer from the plant community is that you may not want to always use the full recommended dose of how much it says that you need. You may want to start with about half strength until you feel more comfortable with exactly how much fertilizer your plant can handle. Remember, under-fertilizing is always safer than over-fertilizing. If you're over-fertilizing, you may see things like lots of salt buildup, you might see burnt tips on the leaves, or if you're fertilizing too much, you could even prevent the plant from absorbing important nutrients through something called nutrient lockout. You may want to use half strength of the recommended dose of the fertilizer until you're confident that your plant can handle the full amount without any adverse effects. And never ever use more than the recommended dose. Your plant will quickly show you how unhappy it is. And in the winter, it is still important to fertilize certain plants. Just because it's cold outside does not mean that your plants stop growing inside. For me in the winter, because my growth is slowed down so much, I use about 1/4 strength of the recommended dose. And you don't need to come for me in the comments because I did say certain plants, not all plants, need fertilizer throughout the winter. You could also get away with not using fertilizer at all until the spring starts up again. If you'd like to learn more about fertilizing your monsteras and other plants, you can check out these videos here. Like if the video was helpful and consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.